up, you guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Married to Medicine. This is season 9, episode 7. So let's get into it, or either it's episode 6. Either way, y'all know I be getting it wrong all the time. But let's hop into this review. So the episode opens up where we left off, where it's the aftermath after Contessa and Heavenly were arguing at the Mexican restaurant. We had that Asian lady videotaping them argue. And we see Anila, Audra, and Quad sitting in someone's room. I think they were in Anila's room, talking about what just transpired. And honestly, Quad's take on the situation is what I've been feeling. Like, both ladies are wrong and everybody needs to acknowledge their part in it. Heavenly needs to acknowledge that her videos do, even if she doesn't mean to be harmful, they are harmful and they hurt her friends, as well as the way Contessa is going about expressing her feelings is harmful as well. You're not going to get anywhere constantly yelling and lashing out at someone when you want them to hear you, and they shut down when that happens, and that's constantly what Contessa is doing to Heavenly. So then we see the ladies all get ready for dinner that night. Everybody looked nice for the most part. Before they sit down at the restaurant table, they actually sit down in the lounge area, and what's her name? Contessa apologizes to everyone, talking about, that's not the vibe I wanted to be on. I apologize for lashing out, blah, blah, blah. Everyone kind of looks at Heavenly like, you gonna apologize? And like Toya said, Heavenly not gonna apologize, and she didn't. So then when they sit down at the table, the food looked great. Them lamb chops looked delicious, and I haven't had lamb chops in a minute. And when I mean, you gotta cook lamb chops just right, but they look delicious. And so they're sitting at the table, and basically they start asking each other questions. I think Carrie asked this one question, like, do you like marathon sex or quickies? Quad talking about, I like both and a little bit of choking. I said, Quad, stop telling everybody your business. Stop it. But everyone at the table, it was all mixed answers. Then I think they asked, I think the next one was like, I think it was like, is it an issue if the wife makes more money than her husband? And Toya said no. And then Heavenly talked about, like, in the biblical sense. And Toya was like, what? And then Toya came back and said, basically, it's not an issue unless the man thinks he should be the breadwinner. And then you move accordingly if you're with him. But if a woman's making the most money and things are going fine, why should it be an issue? And I think that's true. I feel like the way people run their relationships is the choice of the two people or whoever's in the relationship that everybody agrees upon. If you guys have agreed that your husband is going to be the breadwinner, or he's going to be, he's going to be the main person that contributes to all the bills and everything, then so be it. But if it's like we're splitting the bills 50-50 or 60-40, or, however, or if the wife is the main breadwinner, I think whatever works for your household is what should work for your household. I think we oftentimes, a lot of people who are in partnerships allow societal's idea of what marriage should be back in like the 50s and 40s, and that's not where we're at in 2022. Things that work back in the 50s and 40s would damn sure don't work now. It definitely doesn't, especially for Black women, when we are the most educated group or the educated demographic in the United States, and we make more than our counterparts. That's not what it looks like right now, or probably won't ever look like that, like it looked like back in the day. So it is what it is. They then get on the question about, like, how do you know if you're in a toxic relationship? Contessa had that question. I said, that's messy. Her reasoning didn't make sense. I don't know if her and Scott are in a toxic relationship, but they're definitely in a relationship that you can tell is hanging on by a thread. And I think they both kind of agreed to stick this situation out until the kids reach a certain age and then get a divorce. I could definitely see them doing that. Like, I know a decent amount of kids that I went to high school with that once they graduated from like either college or high school, their parents immediately got a divorce or they separated. Because at the end of the day, the only thing keeping them together was the kids. And it don't work that way. Like, I've seen it with my parents. Like, they have a they like my mom and my dad stress the importance of them cultivating a relationship outside of my sister and I, and seeing them still being happy and together at the age that I am now, it makes sense to me. And I've seen their friends do it, and my friends' family members have still, like, parents have stayed together, and my family members have, and that's because they saw the importance of having a relationship outside of their kids, and that's important. So I think the next question was, I think Audra posed a question like, what's something about marriage that you didn't know? And you could clearly tell Toya is drunk as a skunk or she loose as a goose. Don't get me started. And she says that their penis doesn't change. And everybody at the table screamed. It was like a good time. Like, this Vegas trip had its moments where they had beef, but you could tell everybody like genuinely was enjoying their time. And I missed that on other reality shows, i.e. The Housewives, where you can tell that there is beef, but everybody is still laughing and giggling. And like, they're making legitimately good and decent memories. But you could tell Toya drunk. And everyone's like, Toya, shut up. Because, girl, why? It was funny. It was funny, but I could tell she was drunk. They also talked about like masturbation. And Quad talked about how she do it a lot. She also brought up her favorite like toy to use. And then I laughed when Quad was they were like, well, how many times do you do it? And Quad and no, Toya was like, oh, she does it maybe 2 times. And Quad was like, no, I do it more than that. And Toya was like, oh, you got to stop, Quad. I don't know why. Toya had me tickled. They then get served dessert, but it's basically stacks of money. And Simone announces, we go into the strip club. So they on their way to the strip club. So they're on their way to the strip club and they're all in the limo lit. Toya is lit. So is Anila. So is Quiet. Everyone's just drunk and having a good time. And as they're in the car, they start talking about husband's, penis size. And Toya's like, my husband doesn't have a small penis. Quiet said, that's not what you said. And Toya's like, no, my husband's penis is perfect for this vagina. Okay. But she said the P word. It was a mess. So then Contessa jumps in and she's like, well, if you had to switch husbands, who would you be with? Why is Contessa always trying to swap men? She always want to tell us how she mistakenly wound up in a swingers club. Now she asking about who would want who. And drunk Toya blurts out, oh, I would be with Kieran. I try him out. He was like, and I think Toya was like, he's tall and he seems like it'd be long. And then Ania's like, it is. And then she starts kind of start trying to do it like one of the little dances, like one of her cultural dances. And then either she peed on herself or she got sweat coming down her leg. Jackie said, when you get a certain age, that happens. Like, you laugh too hard, a little pee might trickle out. And Anila's like, no, it's sweat. But they're in the car laughing. Everybody's cackling and dying. And I just loved it because it just seemed like everyone was having a genuinely good time. So then they get to the strip club. The MC was fun. Jackie in there, like Contessa said, wrapped up like she's Sojourner Truth. She put on her little shawl talking about she cold. The MC calling her out. They get there, y'all. It's supposed to be, I think, Black Magic Mike. I don't do well in male strip clubs. And it's not like I don't enjoy it because your girl is straight, but it's just like, it's something about it. Like, I can go to a female strip club and have a good time, dance with the girls. We in there twerking, throwing dollar bills, having a good time. But it's something about being at a that like what's it called? I get very like bashful and like prude where I'm like, don't touch me. No much. Too many penises. Too many. And that one guy that came out, King, oh, I would not. I would not. Like that look that thing, woo, that thing was thinking. And then you got Audra in there. Audra was in there shook. Like eyes big as saucers, mouth wide open. She was just shook. And then the last scene was Heavenly being grinded on by like 10 different dudes and her smacking their butts with a belt. And then Simone recording it so she could have evidence against Heavenly. It was a mess, bro, a total mess. So while that's happening, we see the men at a boxing ring. They're all having a good time. They're doing male bonding and stuff like that. We see that Karen and Eugene somewhat worked out their feelings, which is good. We also get a story where Eugene tells us that Toya bit him when they were play fighting and doing Muay Thai. And he was like mad at Toya, but I wasn't mad because like, bro, like Toya said, don't manhandle me. You gonna get bit. You get bit. So they had a fun time. The men was tired. Like you could tell, like when Eugene was like, I know we look young, but we old. I said, y'all look old. Y'all, all of y'all look every bit of 35 and old. And that's not really old, but like sometimes if you ain't kept that body in shape, they all gonna be sore the next day. That's just what it is. Everybody's gonna be sore the next day. So it is the final day in Vegas, and they're all going to have breakfast together in the presidential suite. And Heavenly also got vitamin infusions for the ladies to come and get because they're, I guess, after breakfast are going to get on the planes and head home. It was cute to see the Golden Girls together, them like dropping it like it's hot. Simone looked so cute in her nightgown. Honestly, all the ladies look nice in their night attire, but it was nice. They were all just reminiscing about how wonderful the trip's been. All the ladies come in the room. They're drinking and eating and being very jovial. And they just talk about what they love the most about the trip. And then they get on the topic of like videos because Simone shows Heavenly the video of her smacking the guys' butts. And she talks about how she wants everybody to come over and they're going to host like a day to remember party where they just watch all the videos that they had and all the like do a video compilation of all their good times in Vegas. And it was shade. Quad caught the shade. But then Simone actually apologized to Heavenly and said, the way the intervention went was not how we wanted it to go. It wasn't really meant to like hurt you in that way. And this day to remember is going to be that. Like, we didn't want it that way. And even Contessa agrees that like it wasn't supposed to go that way. And the thing is, like, I think they just expected Heavenly to understand and then them being able to move forward, but that's not what happened. So, Heavenly got defensive and she fought back. So they start to talk. So then Contessa and Heavenly begin to speak, and Heavenly basically, like, I feel like gave one of the most sincerest apologies I've ever seen Heavenly give out of me watching this show from season 1 all the way to season 9 currently, where she told Contessa, like, and she started to cry, where she was just kind of like, I did not know my videos hurt you that way. Like, I would never, like, and you could tell that Heavenly really values her friendship with Contessa, and that's why it really is hurting her the way Contessa is acting. But I need Heavenly to also understand that, like, yeah, you hurt her, so she's allowed to act in this way. It's not the best way, but she's allowed to be frustrated with you. So they kind of accept each other's apologies. Contessa gets up and hugs Heavenly, and they just had a moment. So then as they're having this moment, Quad kind of jumps in, and her and Quad start talking, and Quad was like, this vulnerability you're showing, you need to show it to the group because you have a lot of people in this group that care about you, but we don't see that. We oftentimes just see you being very harsh, very defensive, and it just doesn't work. So then Heavenly starts talking about how, like, I was laughing, but none of y'all was laughing with me. And Quad was like, because the things that you've said have hurt people. And so then Heavenly basically says, it's probably like, and she was like, I probably do this because of my lack of maturity, and I'm still on my spiritual journey, which we've been hearing she's been on a spiritual journey for like several years now. But Heavenly didn't have the best childhood growing up. That's why she has issues with her sister. That's why she gets angry at certain people. That's why a lot of people felt she was mad at Mariah, because Mariah was the pretty girl who seemed to get everything that she wanted, and Heavenly was still the book smart chick that was stuck in her room. Because when we go back, and I think that season where they actually went to Miami to visit Heavenly's childhood home, I want to say it was like between season 4 and 6, or maybe, yeah, between season, maybe it was like season 5 or season 4. And Heavenly basically talked about being in this like small room, basically being in the laundry room with no window. She wasn't allowed to go outside. Her mom kept her inside because her mom knew she was smart and didn't want her child to get caught up, because where they were living was a poverty stricken area where people were selling drugs and not really doing anything with their lives. But Heavenly started to resent her mom and her sister because her sister was able to go outside, live her best life, and be wild and free while she was stuck in the house. And, you know, looking back at it, her mom probably thought she was doing the best that she could and doing the right thing. And some people might say, well, of course she did the right thing because look at Heavenly, she's a doctor, she's this and she's that. But it was a detriment to Heavenly, because Heavenly does not know how to regulate her fight or flight response, in my opinion. Heavenly lashes out very quickly and she goes hard. And then when somebody comes back just as hard at her, she backs up and she's like, oh my goodness, like she takes offense to it, or she gets very defensive and upset. And it's like your knee-jerk reaction can't be to like go to 10. You have to learn to like go to 3, go to 5, then go to 8, then hit the 10. And Heavenly goes past 3, 5, and 8 and goes straight to 10. And I think that's what oftentimes gets her caught up, and she doesn't realize it. Or maybe she does. She says she realizes it. She just is a work in progress. But it was a nice scene. Everyone was happy. Everyone hugged. I mean, I was low-key with Toya when Toya was like, how can we trust you? And Heavenly said, like, my actions have to speak louder than my words. And we know it ain't been working between Toya and Heavenly, because they ain't never going to get right. But maybe Heavenly has improved. I don't really watch her channel, so I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it's become that big of a deal. So maybe she has changed. But that's my review, you guys. So remember to be bravely authentic. Drop down in them comments below and give me your thoughts. Deuces.